Imagine a world where your peace is not dictated by others' actions, where your happiness is not dependent on someone noticing you. Often in life, people ignore us, sometimes intentionally, sometimes unintentionally. The natural human instinct is to react, to feel hurt, to chase validation. But what if I told you the real power lies in not reacting? When you stop reacting to being ignored, you begin to understand a simple truth. Your energy is precious, and it should not be wasted on those who choose not to recognize it. Ignoring you says more about them than it does about you. Your dignity is intact, your self respect grows, and your mind finds calm in the chaos. Not reacting doesn't mean you are weak, it means you are strong enough to rise above pettiness. It means you understand that peace cannot be demanded from the outside, it must be cultivated within. Life becomes lighter, free from the burden of chasing attention because you learn to focus on what truly matters, your growth, your joy, and your purpose. The world is full of noise, distractions, and people who may not always appreciate your worth. By choosing silence over reaction, patience over frustration, and inner strength over dependency on approval, you unlock a level of resilience few ever experience. You learn that ignoring ignorance is not apathy, it is mastery. It is mastery. And here's the most beautiful part. The energy you save by not reacting can be used to build meaningful connections, nurture your skills, and grow spiritually and emotionally. You become untouchable in your calmness and unstoppable in your journey. Life stops being about proving yourself and starts being about living fully, in harmony with your own values and principles. Remember, when people ignore you, it's not always a reflection of your worth. It's an opportunity to practice patience, cultivate peace, and discover the immense power of not letting the outside world dictate your inner world. The next time someone ignores you, smile inwardly, hold your head high, and continue walking your path with unwavering grace. Your reaction, or the choice to have none, defines your life far more than the actions of others ever will. Peace comes from within, and yet we spend so much of our lives searching for it outside ourselves. We look for it in approval, in recognition, in validation from people around us. We believe that if someone notices us, acknowledges us, or treats us in a certain way, only then will we feel calm, content, and satisfied. But the truth is, external circumstances are never constant. People may ignore us, disappoint us, or fail to meet our expectations. And when we tie our peace to them, we give away the power over our inner world. Choosing not to react to being ignored is one of the most profound ways to reclaim that power. When someone ignores you, the initial reaction is almost always emotional. A surge of hurt, anger, or frustration rises up, and the mind races with questions. Why did they do this? Did I do something wrong? Don't they see my effort? These reactions are natural because our mind is wired to seek connection and recognition. But when you pause and consciously choose not to react, you create a space where peace can emerge. In that pause, you begin to realize that your sense of calm does not depend on another person's behavior. Your peace is responsibility, not a privilege granted by someone else. The people who ignore you are living their own lives, carrying their own burdens, and making their own choices. Their actions or inactions are reflections of their world, not a measure of your worth. By choosing not to react, you are essentially refusing to let the outer world dictate your inner climate. You begin to understand that peace is a state of mind cultivated quietly, patiently, and deliberately. It is nurtured in the small moments of self-reflection, in the decisions to forgive silently, in the understanding that life will always have distractions and disappointments, but your inner serenity can remain intact. This inner peace has a ripple effect. When you no longer react impulsively to being ignored, your relationships improve because you are no longer entangled in unnecessary tension. Your focus sharpens because you are not constantly seeking approval. Your emotional energy is preserved because you are not pouring it into unproductive frustration. Most importantly, you start seeing life differently. You see it as a series of experiences meant to teach and strengthen you, rather than tests of your worth or popularity. Over time, this practice transforms you. You become someone who is unshaken by the indifference of others, someone who can remain centered amid chaos, someone who radiates calmness simply because you have learned to derive it from within. People may still ignore you, criticize you, or misunderstand you, but your inner peace acts as a shield. You are free to focus on growth, joy, and meaningful pursuits because you no longer waste your energy chasing recognition that may never come. Ultimately, choosing not to react to being ignored is an act of self-love and wisdom. It is a conscious decision to honor your mental and emotional well-being over temporary emotions triggered by others. When peace comes from within, it is unshakable, unwavering, and eternal, unwavering. And in that peace, you discover a deeper truth. The world can ignore you, but it can never touch your inner calm unless you allow it to. Self-respect is one of the most precious qualities a person can cultivate, and it grows in the quiet moments when you choose dignity over reaction. Life often tests us in subtle ways, and being ignored is one such test. When someone overlooks you, dismisses your presence, or chooses not to acknowledge you, the immediate instinct is to feel hurt or retaliate. But reacting in anger, frustration, or desperation only gives away your power and diminishes your sense of self. True self-respect, however, emerges when you rise above these impulses and honor your own worth without needing external validation. When you stop reacting to being ignored, you send a powerful message to yourself and to the world that your value is not defined by someone else's recognition. You are telling the universe silently but firmly that your dignity is non-negotiable. This is not arrogance or pride. It is the quiet confidence that comes from understanding who you are and what you stand for. Self-respect grows not when people applaud you, but when you maintain your composure, when you keep your integrity intact, and when you refuse to let the actions of others dictate how you treat yourself. Choosing silence over reaction is a way of honoring your inner self. It is acknowledging that your emotions and energy are too valuable to waste on those who cannot see your worth. When someone ignores you, it can feel like a rejection, but the truth is their behavior says nothing about your character. It speaks only about their choices, their priorities, and their limitations. By not reacting, you assert that your self-respect is stronger than their indifference. You begin to see that respect is something you give yourself first, and everything else flows from that foundation. Over time, this practice builds resilience. You start walking through life with a sense of inner strength that cannot be shaken by fleeting slights or casual dismissals. People may continue to ignore you, misunderstand you, or underestimate you, but you remain grounded. You no longer chase attention or approval. Instead, you cultivate a quiet, unwavering self-assurance. This is the essence of true self-respect. It allows you to interact with the world freely, without fear, without desperation, and without the need for constant validation. As self-respect grows, your relationships also transform. You naturally attract people who appreciate and honor you because you demonstrate the standard of treatment you expect. You stop tolerating behavior that diminishes you or makes you feel small. You become someone whose presence is calm, composed, and confident, a person who inspires respect simply by being grounded in their own worth. Self-respect creates a magnetic effect. It doesn't need to be shouted or demanded. It is quietly felt, recognized, and mirrored by those around you. In essence, choosing not to react when ignored is an act of honoring your own dignity. Every time you resist the urge to seek approval, to retaliate, or to feel hurt, you are planting a seed of self-respect that grows steadily into an unshakable confidence. The world may not always acknowledge you, but in this choice, you acknowledge yourself. And that, in the end, is far more important than any recognition you could hope to receive from outside. Energy is the most valuable currency you possess. Yet most of us spend it carelessly, often on things that do not serve us. Being ignored is one of those moments in life that can drain your energy if you let it. The human mind naturally wants to react when it feels overlooked. It wants to argue, explain, seek attention, or even retaliate. But each reaction consumes your mental, emotional, and spiritual energy. When you choose not to react, you are consciously protecting the most precious resource you have, your energy. Every thought, every emotion, and every action uses energy. Reacting to being ignored may seem small, but the cumulative effect of these reactions can be draining. You expend energy trying to prove your worth to someone who has already chosen to overlook it. You expend energy feeling hurt, frustrated, or angry. You expend energy questioning yourself, wondering what went wrong, and replaying the incident over and over in your mind. All of this energy is finite, and once it is spent, it cannot be regained. By choosing silence, by choosing not to react, you redirect energy towards something far more productive. something that nourishes your soul rather than depletes it. When you stop giving your energy away to the indifference of others, you begin to notice a profound shift. Your mind feels lighter, your thoughts clearer, and your heart calmer. You are no longer weighed down by unnecessary emotions triggered by other people's behavior. Instead, you can invest that energy in your personal growth, your passions, and your relationships with people who truly matter. Every moment spent reacting to ignorance is a moment stolen from your potential. And every moment spent conserving your energy is a moment spent building the life you truly want. Energy is also contagious. When you react in anger or frustration, you not only drain yourself but also affect the energy of those around you. Your reactions can create unnecessary tension, stress, and conflict. On the other hand, when you choose calmness and composure, your energy radiates positivity and strength. You become someone who is grounded, resilient, and capable of handling life's challenges without being thrown off balance by the actions of others. People are drawn to this kind of energy because it is rare and authentic. Protecting your energy also means learning the art of selective engagement. Not every action, word, or slide deserves a response. Not every person deserves your attention. By being mindful of where and how you invest your energy, you empower yourself. You gain control over your life instead of letting external circumstances dictate your emotions. Ignorance, neglect, or indifference from others no longer has the power to disturb your inner world. Instead, your energy becomes a tool for growth, clarity, and fulfillment. Ultimately, understanding that energy is precious teaches you a profound lesson in life. What you react to shapes who you become. If you react impulsively to every slight, you will be drained, frustrated, and stuck in a cycle of emotional chaos. But if you learn to preserve your energy, you unlock the ability to rise above, focus on what truly matters, and live a life that is intentional, peaceful, and powerful. Energy is life itself, and how you manage it determines the quality of your life, your happiness, and your freedom. Strength lies in restraint, and yet the world often confuses strength with the ability to act impulsively or to respond immediately to every challenge or slight. True strength is not measured by how quickly you react, how loudly you defend yourself, or how fiercely you argue for recognition. It is measured by the capacity to pause, to breathe, and to choose your response deliberately. When someone ignores you, when your efforts go unnoticed or your presence is overlooked, the temptation to react is strong. But choosing restraint in that moment is where real power emerges. Restraint is not weakness. In fact, it requires far more courage and inner fortitude than reacting impulsively. When you hold yourself back from reacting to ignorance or neglect, you are exercising control over your mind and your emotions. You are proving first to yourself and then to the world that no one else has the authority to disturb your inner equilibrium. The decision to remain calm, silent, and composed is an act of quiet strength that cannot be easily understood by those who equate reaction with power. Choosing restraint transforms your perspective on life. When you stop reacting to every slight, you start to see the bigger picture. You begin to understand that people's behavior reflects their own struggles, priorities, and limitations, not your value or potential. Someone ignoring you may be caught in their own distractions, insecurities, or biases. By not reacting, you are acknowledging this truth and choosing to rise above the smallness of external judgment. This choice not only protects your peace, but also nurtures your self-respect and personal growth. Strength in restraint also strengthens relationships and communication. When you react impulsively out of anger or frustration, words are spoken and actions are taken that may damage connections irreparably. When you exercise restraint, however, you create space for understanding, patience, and empathy. You allow situations to unfold naturally without adding unnecessary tension or conflict. Others may eventually recognize your wisdom and composure, but even if they do not, your strength remains intact because it does not rely on external acknowledgement. Moreover, restraint empowers you to focus on what truly matters. Life is full of distractions, conflicts, and petty dramas that demand energy and attention. If you react to everything, your energy is scattered and your growth is hindered. Restraint allows you to conserve your energy, focus on your goals, and invest in things that build your character, skill, and purpose. It enables you to navigate life with clarity, intentionality, and direction, rather than being tossed around by every emotional wave that comes your way. that comes your way. Ultimately, strength lies in the ability to remain undisturbed by the actions of others. It is the quiet confidence that comes from self-mastery, the calm assurance that your worth is not dictated by anyone else, and the wisdom to recognize that every reaction has consequences. By exercising restraint, you not only preserve your energy and dignity, but also cultivate a level of resilience that allows you to thrive in any environment, under any circumstances. The person who masters restraint becomes untouchable in their calmness, unshakable in their resolve, and unstoppable in their journey. Strength does not need to shout or prove itself. It manifests in quiet, deliberate choices, in the ability to rise above trivial provocations, and in the inner power that comes from knowing that you alone determine your peace and your path. Chasing approval is one of the most exhausting and unfulfilling pursuits in life, yet so many of us fall into this trap without realizing it. We live in a world that constantly signals, implicitly and explicitly, that our worth is tied to the recognition we receive from others. Social media likes, compliments, professional accolades, or even casual nods of acknowledgement can create a temporary sense of validation, but the moment someone ignores us, dismisses us, or fails to notice our efforts, we feel a void. Chasing approval from the outside is futile because it is never permanent. It is always conditional, fluctuating, and beyond our control. When you stop reacting to being ignored, you begin to understand a profound truth. Your value is inherent, not assigned. Approval is fleeting. It is granted by others based on their own perceptions, moods, and priorities. If your happiness and peace are contingent on it, you surrender your power to forces you cannot control. You allow someone else's attention or lack thereof to dictate your emotions, your confidence, and even your choices. By choosing not to chase approval, you reclaim ownership of your inner life. You start recognizing that the only validation that truly matters is the one you give yourself. Chasing approval often leads to compromise. We change our behavior, suppress our opinions, and mold ourselves to fit the expectations of others. Over time, this erodes authenticity and self-respect. People may notice or praise the version of you that conforms, but that recognition is shallow and unreliable. When you stop seeking approval, you stop bending to meet someone else's standards and start honoring your own principles. You become more authentic, more grounded, and more aligned with your true self. This authenticity draws genuine connections and meaningful recognition naturally, rather than forcing it through constant effort or reaction. When you cease chasing approval, you also conserve tremendous mental and emotional energy. Life is full of challenges, opportunities, and experiences that deserve your attention. If you are constantly worrying about what others think, if you are perpetually trying to win acknowledgement or validation, you are diverting precious energy away from personal growth, creativity, and purpose. By choosing not to react to being ignored, you redirect that energy toward things that matter, developing skills, nurturing relationships, and building a life aligned with your goals and values. Chasing approval also traps you in a cycle of comparison. You start measuring yourself against others. Who receives more attention? Who is more appreciated? Who is more visible? This comparison breeds dissatisfaction, envy, and restlessness. By freeing yourself from the need for external validation, you break this cycle. You stop looking outward for metrics of success and start looking inward, measuring yourself by your own growth, effort, and principles. You discover that self-worth is not dependent on applause, but on alignment with your true values. Ultimately, chasing approval is futile because it is external and transient, whereas self-respect, authenticity, and inner peace are internal and enduring. The moment you stop reacting to being ignored, you realize that life is not about convincing others of your worth. It is about knowing it yourself. Your confidence, dignity, and joy no longer hinge on who notices you or who praises you. You become untethered, free, and empowered. In that freedom, you live a life of integrity, authenticity, and contentment. One that no fleeting recognition can enhance or diminish. Life becomes lighter when you stop reacting to being ignored. First, it may seem counterintuitive. How can ignoring someone else's indifference make your life feel lighter? Yet, the weight we carry is often invisible, created by our own responses, expectations, and emotional attachments. When we constantly react to slights, neglect, or indifference, we are carrying around unnecessary burdens. Each thought of hurt, every moment of frustration, Every attempt to prove ourselves adds invisible weight to our hearts and minds. Choosing not to react is like setting down a heavy backpack that we have been carrying for years. The lightness begins with understanding that not every action of others requires your energy or attention. When someone ignores you, it is their choice, not a reflection of your worth. By releasing the need to respond, you release the tension that builds within you. Your mind becomes clearer, your emotions more balanced, and your days less cluttered with anxiety and resentment. Life no longer feels like a series of battles for recognition or validation, because you have stopped engaging in conflicts that do not serve your growth or peace. This lightness also comes from freeing yourself from expectations. Expectations are often the root of suffering. We expect people to notice us, acknowledge us, or treat us in a certain way, and when those expectations are not met, disappointment follows. By choosing not to react, you let go of these expectations. You accept life as it is, understanding that people will act according to their own worldviews, priorities, and limitations. When you detach from the need for external validation, you feel a sense of liberation that transforms the way you experience each day. This day. A lighter life also allows for more joy and creativity. When we are not weighed down by resentment, frustration, or the urge to prove ourselves, our mental and emotional energy is free for productive and fulfilling pursuits. You begin to notice beauty in simple moments, opportunities in unexpected places, and gratitude in everyday experiences. The small irritations and slights that once consumed your mind no longer hold power over your mood. Instead, your attention flows naturally toward growth, learning, and meaningful connections. Moreover, a lighter life fosters resilience. When you stop reacting to being ignored, you are no longer dependent on the whims of others for your emotional stability. Challenges, setbacks, and indifference become easier to navigate because you are anchored in your own inner calm. Life becomes less about defending yourself and more about moving forward with grace and intention. The freedom that comes from emotional lightness is profound. It allows you to act thoughtfully, respond wisely, and live fully without being trapped in unnecessary drama. Ultimately, life becomes lighter because you reclaim control over your inner world. You no longer hand over your peace to others, and in doing so, you discover a profound sense of freedom. You are able to focus on what truly matters, pursue your passions, nurture meaningful relationships, and find joy in your own existence rather than the fleeting attention of others. The lighter life is a life of clarity, calm, and contentment. A life in which your happiness is not contingent on someone else's recognition, but arises naturally from the wisdom of knowing your own worth. Focusing on what truly matters is one of the most transformative choices you can make in life, and yet, it is often easier said than done. When someone ignores you or dismisses your presence, it can feel like a personal affront, and our instinct is to divert energy toward it, to ruminate, to analyze, to react. But each moment spent on what does not serve your growth is a moment stolen from what truly does. Choosing not to react allows you to redirect your attention and energy to the people, actions, and goals that genuinely enrich your life. Life is full of distractions, and not all of them are visible or obvious. Emotional distractions like the pain of being ignored or the frustration of seeking approval can quietly consume your mental energy. When we fixate on someone's indifference, we give it more importance than it deserves. By consciously choosing to let go, you free your mind to engage with the things that are meaningful, your dreams, your work, your relationships, and your personal growth. This shift in focus brings clarity and purpose to every action you take. Focusing on what matters also means prioritizing your own development over the opinions of others. When you are not consumed with reacting to slights or chasing recognition, you can devote your energy to learning, improving, and becoming a better version of yourself. Every skill you cultivate, every challenge you overcome, and every moment of reflection becomes a building block for your future. By concentrating on meaningful pursuits, you transform your time into a series of intentional steps toward your highest potential, rather than allowing it to be scattered by the fleeting whims of others. This focus also strengthens your emotional resilience. Life will always present challenges, and people will not always behave as we hope. If we expend our energy reacting to every slight, we remain at the mercy of external circumstances. By focusing on what truly matters, you create a mental boundary A filter that allows important matters to receive your energy and attention, while letting trivial distractions pass without disturbance. This boundary is not walls of isolation. It is the wisdom to recognize what deserves your effort and what does not. Moreover, focusing on what matters brings a sense of inner peace. When your attention is aligned with your priorities and values, you experience less stress, less frustration, and less wasted energy. You stop being controlled by minor irritations, social dramas, or the fleeting judgments of others. Instead, your actions are guided by purpose, your relationships are nurtured with intention, and your achievements reflect your authentic self rather than the expectations of others. This alignment transforms life from a reactive struggle into a proactive journey of meaning and fulfillment. Ultimately, choosing to focus on what matters is an act of self-respect, discipline, and wisdom. It allows you to rise above the noise of indifference, ignorance, and distraction. When you prioritize your energy, your attention, and your actions toward meaningful goals, life becomes richer, calmer, and more purposeful. You realize that while you cannot control the actions or opinions of others, you can always control where you invest your focus. And that choice, what to nurture, what to pursue, and what to let go, determines the quality, depth, and fulfillment of your life. Mastery over ignorance is one of the quietest yet most powerful forms of strength a person can achieve. Ignorance in this context is not simply a lack of knowledge. It is the indifference, disregard, or neglect that we sometimes experience from others. When someone ignores you, the immediate impulse is to react, to argue, to prove yourself, or to seek acknowledgement. But reacting keeps you trapped in a cycle where the ignorance of others controls your emotions, your energy, and even your self-worth. True mastery begins the moment you realize that you have a choice. You can either let their indifference disturb you, or you can rise above it with calm, composed wisdom. Mastery over ignorance is not about ignoring people in return or becoming detached from life. It is about understanding the nature of human behavior and refusing to allow others' actions to dictate your inner world. People act according to their own experiences, fears, and limitations. When someone ignores you, it often reflects more about them than it does about you. By accepting this, you take control of your emotional state and refuse to hand over your power to external circumstances. Mastery over ignorance means recognizing that your peace and dignity are your own responsibility, not the gift of others. When you practice this mastery, life becomes significantly lighter. You are no longer pulled into unnecessary confrontations, misunderstandings, or emotional turmoil. You stop expending energy on people who do not acknowledge your presence or value. This energy, once wasted in frustration or self-doubt, can now be redirected toward growth, learning, and meaningful connections. You begin to experience life with clarity and focus, free from the emotional chaos that often accompanies a desire for recognition or validation. Mastery over ignorance also strengthens your emotional resilience. Life will inevitably bring encounters with people who are indifferent, dismissive, or even hostile. If you have not cultivated this mastery, these encounters can shake your confidence and disturb your peace. But when you have learned to rise above ignorance, you are no longer vulnerable to such disturbances. You remain anchored in your values, your purpose, and your inner calm, understanding that external behavior cannot diminish your worth unless you allow it. This mastery encourages patience and wisdom. You begin to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. You learn to discern which battles are worth engaging in and which can be left alone. You see that reacting to ignorance often escalates situations unnecessarily, while choosing calm and composure disarms negativity and maintains your integrity. Over time, people may even recognize your strength, not because you forced acknowledgement, but because your quiet dignity naturally commands respect. Ultimately, mastery over ignorance is an expression of self-mastery. It is the conscious decision to rise above pettiness, to protect your energy, and to preserve your peace regardless of the behavior of others. You learn that happiness, confidence, and fulfillment come from within, not from external recognition. Every moment you resist the urge to react, every time you choose calm over confrontation, you deepen this mastery and strengthen the foundation of your life. By mastering ignorance, you achieve a freedom few people ever experience. The freedom to remain unaffected by what others choose to overlook, the freedom to focus on your growth and purpose, and the freedom to live with unwavering inner peace. In this mastery lies true power. The ability to shape your life not by the opinions of others, but by the strength, wisdom, and serenity you cultivate within yourself. Building meaningful connections is one of the most fulfilling aspects of life. Yet, it is also one of the most overlooked when we allow ourselves to be distracted by trivial matters, such as being ignored. When someone overlooks or dismisses us, the natural reaction is often to focus on that indifference, to wonder why we weren't noticed, or to attempt to force attention. But these reactions consume energy and distract from what truly matters, nurturing relationships that are genuine, reciprocal, and enriching. Choosing not to react to being ignored frees you to invest in people and connections that bring depth, joy, and purpose to your life. Meaningful connections are built on mutual respect, understanding, and authenticity. When you are constantly reacting to slights or seeking validation from people who ignore you, it is difficult to maintain these qualities. Your energy is fragmented, your mind preoccupied with proving your worth rather than engaging authentically. By letting go of the need for recognition, you create space to focus on those who genuinely value you and your presence. This shift not only improves the quality of your relationships, but also ensures that the connections you cultivate are based on honesty and mutual care rather than obligation or superficial acknowledgement. Another important aspect of building meaningful connections is presence. When you are not preoccupied with how others perceive you or whether you are being ignored, you can be fully present with the people who matter. Presence is a powerful tool. It shows attentiveness, empathy, and sincerity. These qualities naturally strengthen relationships and deepen bonds. When your attention is divided between reacting to indifference and engaging with meaningful people, both suffer. By choosing calm and composure, you redirect your energy toward nurturing connections that truly matter, which ultimately creates more happiness and fulfillment in your life. Or, building meaningful connections also requires patience and understanding. Not everyone will recognize your efforts or appreciate your presence immediately, and that is okay. By not reacting to being ignored, you practice patience and learn to discern between relationships worth pursuing and those that drain you. Over time, you attract individuals who align with your values, support your growth, and celebrate your presence. These connections are enduring, uplifting, and mutually enriching, far more rewarding than fleeting recognition from people who fail to see your worth. Furthermore, meaningful connections thrive when you are emotionally balanced. Reacting impulsively to indifference often introduces unnecessary tension, misunderstandings, or conflict into relationships. By maintaining composure, you preserve harmony and create an environment where authentic connections can flourish. People are drawn to those who exude calm confidence and self-respect, and these qualities naturally strengthen bonds with those who are aligned with your values. Ultimately, building meaningful connections is about quality over quantity. It is about investing your time, energy, and attention where it truly matters, rather than dispersing it on reactions to indifference or superficial recognition. By choosing not to react when ignored, you protect your energy, cultivate patience, and focus on relationships that are authentic, supportive, and mutually enriching. These connections, built on respect, presence, and sincerity, become a source of joy, strength, and inspiration in your life. The most profound realization is that your capacity to build meaningful connections is enhanced to the art of composure and discernment. Life becomes less about chasing attention and more about nurturing bonds that truly matter. In these relationships, you experience love, respect, and understanding, not because you demanded it, but because you cultivated it through patience, focus, and emotional maturity. In essence, by choosing not to react to being ignored, you open the door to relationships that are deeply fulfilling, authentic, and transformative. Defining your life for yourself is one of the most empowering acts you can commit to. And yet, so many of us unconsciously allow others to dictate our sense of purpose, self-worth, and direction. When someone ignores you, dismisses you, or refuses to acknowledge your efforts, it is easy to internalize their behavior and let it shape your self-perception. But every moment you give your power to someone else's indifference is a moment you lose control over your own life. The true mastery comes when you decide that your life will be defined by your choices, your values, and your principles, not by the recognition or opinions of others. Defining your life begins with self-awareness. It requires an honest assessment of who you are. what matters to you, and the kind of life you want to lead. When you are ignored or dismissed, the natural tendency is to react, to seek validation, or to question your worth. But every time you resist that urge and maintain your composure, you assert your independence. You are making a conscious decision that your worth is not contingent upon anyone else's perception. This choice is the foundation of a life defined by your own terms, not by external circumstances. Choosing not to react to being ignored is a powerful exercise in self-mastery. It reinforces the understanding that the opinions of others do not determine your value. People may judge, ignore, or misunderstand you, but their actions cannot dictate your purpose or direction unless you allow them to. By reclaiming your power, you begin to live intentionally. You prioritize your goals, your passions, and your growth over the fleeting approval or recognition of others. In doing so, you create a life that is authentic, purposeful, and resilient. Defining your life also involves setting boundaries. When others' indifference or opinions attempt to shape your decisions, setting limits becomes essential. Boundaries protect your energy, preserve your peace, and ensure that your actions align with your principles rather than external pressures. By refusing to react to neglect or disregard, you establish a clear standard for how you allow yourself to be treated. And in doing so, you assert control over your journey. Your life ceases to be a reflection of others' choices and becomes a direct expression of your own. Furthermore, when you define your life, you embrace accountability and responsibility for your actions and outcomes. You no longer blame others for ignoring you or for failing to acknowledge your worth. Instead, you focus on what you can control, your thoughts, your actions, your growth, and your responses. This perspective shifts the locus of power inward, allowing you to act with confidence and clarity, free from the emotional turbulence caused by seeking validation externally. Ultimately, defining your life is a lifelong commitment to authenticity and self-determination. It means that you navigate challenges, setbacks, and indifference with grace, knowing that your path is guided by your principles, not by someone else's recognition. It empowers you to pursue your goals, cultivate meaningful relationships, and live with purpose regardless of the actions or opinions of those around you. When you take ownership of your life, you become unstoppable, not because the world bends to your will, but because your inner compass is unshakable. By choosing not to react to being ignored, you declare to yourself and the world that your life will not be dictated by anyone else. Every decision, every action, and every pursuit becomes a reflection of your values, your vision, and your strength. In this freedom lies true empowerment, the ability to live fully, authentically, and intentionally, defining your life not by the whims of others, but by the unwavering guidance of your own heart and mind. Inner freedom is one of the most profound gifts you can cultivate, and it becomes your greatest strength when you stop reacting to being ignored. Often we tie our emotions, our confidence, and even our happiness to the actions and opinions of others. When someone overlooks us or fails to acknowledge our presence, it feels like a loss, a rejection, or a wound to our ego. But each time you react, you give that person control over your inner world. The moment you consciously choose not to react, you begin to experience a level of freedom that is rare, transformative, and deeply empowering. Inner freedom arises from the realization that no one can dictate your peace unless you allow them to. When you stop responding to slights, indifference, or ignorance, you reclaim ownership of your emotional and mental state. You begin to understand that happiness, self-worth, and fulfillment are not external commodities to be earned or granted by others. They are cultivated from within. This awareness alone is liberating. It allows you to navigate life with grace, composure, and resilience, unaffected by the fluctuating behaviors of others. When you embrace inner freedom, you also gain clarity. You start to see situations as they are, rather than through the lens of hurt, pride, or the need for validation. Being ignored no longer feels like a personal failure or a reflection of your value. Instead, it becomes a neutral event, something that may require patience or understanding, but nothing that can shake your foundation. This clarity allows you to make better decisions, respond thoughtfully, and focus on what truly matters rather than being distracted by temporary slights. Inner freedom also strengthens your confidence and self-respect. When you are no longer reliant on the acknowledgement or attention of others, you stand taller in your own eyes. You respect yourself enough to remain composed, patient, and gracious, even in situations where others might act indifferently. This confidence is magnetic. It draws the right people toward you, builds trust in your relationships, and reinforces a sense of authenticity. Unlike fleeting external praise, this inner strength is consistent, reliable, and entirely within your control. Moreover, inner freedom allows you to invest your energy wisely. Life is full of challenges, distractions, and emotional turbulence. If you are constantly reacting to being ignored or seeking validation, you scatter your energy on matters that offer little growth or fulfillment. By exercising inner freedom, you can direct your focus toward your goals, your passions, and your personal development. Every action becomes intentional, every moment purposeful, and every effort aligned with your vision for life. Ultimately, inner freedom becomes your strength because it untethers you from dependency on external forces. It allows you to live authentically, act consciously, and respond thoughtfully. When your peace is self-generated rather than externally granted, you navigate life with an unwavering sense of stability and resilience. You no longer measure yourself by the attention or recognition of others, but by the alignment of your actions with your values and the fulfillment of your potential. By choosing not to react to being ignored, you nurture this inner freedom. It grows quietly, steadily, and powerfully until it becomes the foundation of your strength. It transforms challenges into opportunities, indifference into lessons, and every moment into a chance to live fully, authentically, and confidently. In essence, when you are free within, no outside force can diminish your power. And that inner liberation becomes your ultimate strength in life. Focusing on personal growth over reactions is a choice that transforms not just your mindset, but your entire life. Every time someone ignores you or dismisses your efforts, there is a moment of decision, a fork in the road. You can either react, letting your emotions dictate your actions, or you can rise above, choosing to invest that same energy into your own development. The difference between the two paths is profound. Reacting keeps you trapped in a cycle of frustration, distraction, and emotional exhaustion, while focusing on growth liberates your mind, nurtures your potential, and strengthens your character. When you prioritize personal growth, you stop measuring your worth based on others' recognition. Being ignored or overlooked may initially sting, but rather than allowing it to pull you down, you use it as an opportunity to reflect, improve, and evolve. Each challenge, each moment of indifference becomes a lesson in resilience, patience, and self-awareness. The energy that could have been wasted on frustration or defensiveness is now redirected toward learning new skills, deepening your understanding, or developing emotional intelligence. This shift in focus changes the trajectory of your life, allowing you to grow steadily while others remain entangled in trivial dramas. Personal growth is cumulative. Every time you resist reacting impulsively, every time you choose calm over confrontation, and every time you redirect your attention to constructive pursuits, you build a stronger, wiser, and more resilient version of yourself. Growth requires consistency, patience, and intentionality, and these qualities flourish when you stop letting external behavior dictate your emotional state. By choosing self-improvement over reaction, you lay the foundation for a life of purpose and fulfillment that is immune to temporary slights or indifference. Furthermore, focusing on personal growth over reactions enhances your emotional intelligence. You begin to understand your triggers, your impulses, and your responses. You notice how reacting to someone's indifference only drains energy and often complicates situations unnecessarily. By observing yourself without judgment and choosing growth-oriented actions instead, you develop mastery over your emotions. You learn to respond thoughtfully rather than react impulsively. And this self-awareness becomes a guiding force in all areas of life. Relationships, work, and personal endeavors. Another key benefit is the long-term impact on your relationships. When you stop reacting out of hurt, frustration, or a desire for validation, you interact with others from a place of authenticity, calmness, and respect. People naturally respond better to those who are composed and self-aware. And your relationships become deeper, more meaningful, and mutually supportive. By focusing on growth, you cultivate the qualities that attract the right kind of people into your life while letting go of those who bring unnecessary conflict or negativity. Ultimately, prioritizing personal growth over reactions is about regaining control over your life. Life will always include moments of being ignored, overlooked, or misunderstood. But your power lies in deciding how you respond. By investing your energy in self-improvement, learning, and meaningful pursuits, you transform potential setbacks into stepping stones. You build resilience, confidence, and clarity that no external circumstance can diminish. Choosing personal growth over reaction is an act of wisdom, self-respect, and vision. It allows you to rise above temporary disappointments, harness your energy for meaningful purposes, and create a life defined by progress, fulfillment, and strength. The more you practice this discipline, the more you realize that your growth is infinitely more valuable than any fleeting reaction, and that every moment invested in yourself compounds into a life of purpose, impact, and true success. Not your reaction defines your life. It may sound simple, but it is one of the most profound truths that can transform the way you navigate every moment. Life constantly presents challenges, disappointments, and situations that test your patience, your self-respect, and your emotional strength. One of the most common challenges is being ignored, overlooked, or dismissed by others. In such moments, you face a choice. React impulsively and let the external world dictate your emotions, or respond with calmness, clarity, and purpose, shaping your life according to your own values rather than the whims of others. Every reaction is a seed that grows into your experience. When you allow yourself to react out of anger, frustration, or hurt, you plant seeds that lead to stress, regret, and wasted energy. You give power over your emotional state to someone else, allowing their actions or lack thereof to define your inner world. Over time, these reactions accumulate, shaping a life that is reactive, restless, and dependent on external circumstances. On the other hand, choosing to respond thoughtfully, or even choosing not to react at all, plants seeds of strength, patience, and resilience. Your life, then, becomes a reflection of your intentional choices rather than the unpredictable behaviors of others. Your reaction is also a reflection of your character. When someone ignores you, it is easy to feel small, frustrated, or resentful. But responding with calmness, dignity, and composure demonstrates self-mastery. It shows that you are not a victim of circumstance, but a master of your own mind and emotions. This does not mean you suppress your feelings or pretend everything is fine. It means you channel your energy into constructive actions rather than reactive emotions. The way you respond in these small moments accumulates into the kind of person you become, and ultimately, the life you lead. Moreover, your reaction has consequences that extend beyond your personal experience. Words spoken in anger can damage relationships. Decisions made impulsively can alter your path, and actions taken out of frustration can create regret that lasts for years. Conversely, responding with patience, wisdom, and self-control strengthens relationships, opens doors of opportunity, and builds trust and respect in both personal and professional spheres. Your ability to regulate your reactions directly influences the quality of your interactions, your achievements, and your overall life satisfaction. Choosing your reaction also empowers you. It reminds you that while you cannot always control what others do, you can control how you respond. Being ignored is not inherently powerful. It only becomes powerful if you allow it to dictate your mood, your behavior, or your self-worth. By taking responsibility for your reaction, you reclaim your autonomy and direct your life toward growth, peace, and purpose. This awareness creates an inner stability that external events cannot shake. Ultimately, your reaction defines your life because it shapes your thoughts, your emotions, your decisions, and your relationships. Life is full of situations beyond your control, but how you respond to them determines your reality. By choosing composure over impulse, patience over frustration, and wisdom over reaction, you construct a life of integrity, resilience, and fulfillment. Your reaction is not just a momentary response. It is the architect of your destiny, the sculptor of your character, and the foundation of a life lived with intention, strength, and grace.